Good afternoon. My name is Clara Lee Dharmawan, and I am currently in my final year as an undergraduate student in the School of Business and Management in Bandung Institute of Technology in Indonesia. And today I would like to present to you the topic of my bachelor dissertation, which is how does the rise of digital payments influence overconsumption behavior among the Gen Z and millennial society in Indonesia. And first of all, as an introduction, as a background to my research, I am intrigued to pursue this topic because there has been a massive growth of digitalization in Indonesia, which have caused people to shift from using traditional payment methods such as cash or credit cards, debit cards, to actually digital alternatives. And the country, Indonesia, has embarked on the digital ecosystem for the past 5 to 10 years, and the ecosystem has influenced users to use digital wallets for payments instead of physical cash and cards, according to Deloitte Indonesia in 2020. However, despite the overall benefits of digital payments, the overall purpose of my paper is to understand whether the use of these digital payments actually have a direct influence on especially the Gen Z and millennial consumers' buying behaviors, specifically overconsumption behaviors, and whether these cashless methods actually could increase the Gen Z and millennials' willingness to spend, and which is why I started this research with two variables. First is the independent variable X, which is the use of digital payments, um, strengthened by three dimensions, which is first the convenience, second the practicality, third the flexibility of digital payments. And this research also has a dependent variable, which is overconsumption behavior, variable Y, um, which also has three dimensions, which is first materialism, second overspending influenced by promotional offers, and third a higher willingness to pay. And this is the research model. With this research model, I constructed a conceptual framework where I form a hypothesis, which is there is a relationship between the use of digital payments and overconsumption behavior. And this research pursues a positivist paradigm using a quantitative method through a questionnaire survey conducted online, which at the end had 114 respondents. However, after a few tests and filtering processes, 97 of those responses were considered valid and further used in the research, which in the end, these were, of course, from the target respondents, which is from the Gen Z and millennials age group. For the Gen Z age group, between 16 to 27 years old, and for the millennials age group, between 28 and 42 years old. And a restriction is they have to be living in Jakarta and Bandung, Indonesia. And the statements are all measured using the Likert scale. As you can see in this table, the use of digital payments and overconsumption behavior, these two variables are both measured by Likert scale, from strongly agree to strongly disagree, and from always to never. And after the questionnaire was shared to the respondents, the next stage is the data analysis, which is in three phases. The first phase is the reliability and validity tests, and also the classical assumptions test. Second is the descriptive statistics, and third is the linear regression. Um, First, for the validity test, we use the Pearson correlation method in SPSS with an N of 97 and a degree of freedom of 95. The R table is found to be 0.1996. So the valid statements in the research in the questionnaire must be above the R table of 0.1996 for it to be considered as valid, while invalid ones are the ones below the R table. And from the results, 35 out of 36 statements are considered valid, with 13 statements from variable X and variable Y with 22 statements. Because the statement number 31, which is I buy things using pay later, is found to be below the R table, hence it is considered invalid and excluded from further analysis. After the statement number 31 was excluded, we conducted a reliability test through the Cronbach alpha method in SPSS, and it showed that both variables are considered reliable because the reliability coefficient is above zero point 0.7, and both are valid and reliable, both variable X and variable Y, because they respectively are 0.944 and 0.861 for their reliability coefficient, which is above 0.7. Second, we conducted a classical assumptions test to test whether the data is in a normal distribution. And as you can see in this graph, it is indeed a normal distribution, as you can see in the QQ plot of the standardized residuals as well. So with a significance value of 0.2, which is also another proof that the assumptions in this study is in a normal distribution, is because it is above 0.05, which is the confidence level. And third, in the descriptive statistics, we can find that through the questionnaire, respondents, out of the 97 respondents, 30.9% says that they sometimes buy more items due to e-wallet balance, with 27.8 rarely, 18% often, and 18% never. And 11.3% of them always says that they always feel less pain in paying in using while using e-wallet instead of cash. And 24.7% says often, with 36.1% says sometimes. And 20.6% says rarely, and 7.2% says never. And for difficulty in controlling expenses, 9% says that they always feel like they have difficulty in controlling expenses, and 18.6% says often, and 37.1% says sometimes, while 24.7% says that they rarely find it difficult to control expenses, and 10.3% says they don't. They just don't. They never. And overall, we can see that digital payments can actually increase their willingness to spend and willingness to pay, and actually decreases their pain in paying, making expense control challenging. And second is we calculated that out of 97 respondents, 25 of them rarely make impulsive purchases just because they like them, while 34 respondents agree that they sometimes engage in such behavior. Additionally, 27 respondents mentioned that they frequently make impulsive purchases based on their liking for items, which means that 73.5% of the total respondents actually make impulsive purchases between sometimes to frequently, which says quite a lot about the effect of digital payments on impulsive purchases. And one of the most important one of our data analysis is the linear regression analysis. We found that the regression equation is y equals to 58.991 plus 0.069x, which means that the beta is 0.69, implying that for every 1% increase in digital payment usage, it results in a 6.9% rise in overconsumption behavior. Since the beta is positive, it indicates that there is a positive relationship between digital payment usage and overconsumption behaviors. However, although there is a 6.9% effect on overconsumption behavior by the use of digital payments, the T table critical value, um, the T table shows that the value is 0.521, lower than the T table value of 1.990, indicating that there is no significant relationship between digital payments and overconsumption behaviors. And the p value of 0.604 is also higher than 0.05, confirming the null hypothesis that there is no significant relationship between digital payments and overconsumption behaviors. So, as a conclusion, it is concluded that young people are indeed aware of digital payments and actively use them, considering them to be useful, adaptable, and practical. However, although the study found a linear association between excessive spending behaviors and the use of digital payments with 6.9%, however, there is found to be no significant relationship between the two variables. Nevertheless, there is some influence and there is some evidence that suggests that the use of digital payments is influencing consumers' purchasing patterns, such as higher willingness to pay and impulsiveness. And to end my presentation, in order to improve future research, the first recommendation is to gather a larger sample size that better represents the population. Since, of course, through a questionnaire survey, there are inherent limitations in questionnaire surveys, including response bias and potential inaccuracies in respondents' answers. And second is that future comprehensive research has to consider other variables that needs to be conducted, and other variables such as psychological factors like self-control and money disorders, and educational factors such as financial literacy may actually affect mobile payment use or overspending behaviors even more. So yeah, that's it from me. These are the references. Thank you very much.